They laughed when he spoke about his dreams. Some smiled politely. Others didn't even try to hide their doubt. But while the world kept reminding him of everything he wasn't, he kept walking forward, quietly, painfully, toward everything he could become. Ethan Walker learned early that dreams could be fragile things. Not because they were weak, but because people were careless with them. He was 16 the first time someone laughed out loud at what he wanted to be. The classroom smelled like dry erase markers and old paper, sunlight slanting through half-broken blinds. The teacher had asked a simple question, the kind meant to fill time before the bell rang. What do you see yourself doing one day? Hands went up. Doctor, engineer, lawyer. Answers that felt safe. Ethan waited. His heart thudded harder with every passing second. When his name was finally called, he swallowed and spoke before fear could pull the words back. I want to build stories. Movies. Stories that make people feel less alone. There was a pause. Then someone laughed. Not cruelly at first. More surprised, like they hadn't expected that answer to be serious. Few others joined in. Whispers spread. Someone muttered, "Good luck with that." The teacher cleared her throat and nodded politely, already moving on. Ethan sat back in his chair, face burning. He didn't laugh with them. He didn't defend himself either. He just stared at his desk, tracing invisible lines with his finger, telling himself that one day this moment wouldn't matter. But it did. Moments like that always did. Home life was quieter. His mother, Maria Walker, worked long hours at a small medical billing office. She came home tired, shoes kicked off by the door, hair pulled back in a loose knot. She loved Ethan deeply, but life had taught her to be practical. When he told her about his dream, she didn't laugh. She sighed. "Stories are beautiful," she said gently, stirring a pot of soup on the stove. "But beauty doesn't always pay the bills." Ethan nodded. He had expected that answer. Still, it settled heavy in his chest. At night, when the apartment was quiet and the city hummed outside the window, he wrote anyway, on an old laptop that overheated if he pushed it too hard. Short scenes, dialogues, moments stolen from his own fears and hopes. He didn't tell anyone about those hours. Those belonged to him. Years passed. Dreams didn't disappear, but they changed shape. College wasn't an option he could afford, so Ethan worked. First at a warehouse, then as a delivery driver, then finally at a small marketing firm where he answered phones and fetched coffee. His boss, Mr. Harlan, was a man who measured success by punctuality and profit margins. He liked Ethan well enough, as long as Ethan stayed in his lane. "Creative stuff is for people with connections," Mr. Harlan once said during a lunch break. "You're reliable. That matters more." Reliable. The word felt like a quiet ceiling. Ethan's friend Caleb didn't laugh at his dream either, but he didn't understand it. "Man, you've got a steady paycheck," Caleb said one night as they sat on the hood of Caleb's car, city lights blinking in the distance. "Why torture yourself chasing something that might never happen?" Ethan didn't have an answer that made sense out loud. All he knew was that every time he ignored that pull inside him, something in his chest tightened, like a door slowly closing. So he started waking up earlier, writing before work, editing after midnight, submitting short scripts to online contests under a name that wasn't his own. Rejection emails stacked up quietly in his inbox. "Thank you for your submission. We regret to inform you." Each one stung. Each one made the laughter from that classroom echo a little louder. There were nights Ethan almost stopped. Nights he stared at the ceiling, calculating rent, groceries, his mother's growing exhaustion. Nights when giving up felt responsible. But then he'd remember how it felt when people laughed. How small it made him feel. And how he never wanted to feel that small again. He kept going. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just steadily. One story at a time. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, buried between spam and reminders. Ethan almost deleted it. He was at his desk, headset on, listening to a client complain about a scheduling error. His coffee had gone cold. The office buzzed with low conversations and keyboard clicks. Just another day that looked exactly like yesterday. When the call ended, he glanced at his inbox out of habit. "Regarding your submission," his stomach tightened. He waited until lunch to open it, like delaying bad news might soften the blow. Sitting alone in the break room, plastic chair digging into his back, he clicked. "We'd like to discuss your script further." That was it. No exclamation points. No dramatic language. Just a sentence that made his hands shake. He read it 3 times to make sure he wasn't imagining it. Then he leaned back and let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for years. The meeting was virtual. Small production company. Limited budget. No guarantees. But they had read his work. They had felt something. That night, Ethan told his mother. Maria listened quietly, eyes focused on his face, searching for disappointment she didn't find. "I'm proud of you," she said finally. It was the first time she'd said it about his dream. The weeks that followed were exhausting. Ethan worked his day job and his nights bled into rewrites and calls and doubt. There were moments when the company went silent for days, and fear crept back in. Caleb was cautiously supportive. "Just don't quit your job yet," he said, half joking, half worried. Mr. Harlan noticed Ethan's distraction. "You okay?" he asked once, arms crossed. Ethan nodded. He always nodded. The script didn't become a movie overnight. It didn't change his life in a single moment. But it opened a door. Then another. A year later, Ethan stood in a small theater, lights dimmed, heart pounding. His name appeared briefly on the screen. Not big, not flashy, but real. He thought about the classroom, laughter, the silence afterward. He thought about the nights he almost stopped. When the lights came back on, no one laughed. Some people cried. Outside, under the city lights, Ethan checked his phone. A message from Caleb. "I was wrong," it read. "You did it." Ethan smiled, eyes stinging. He hadn't done everything, but he had done something. And for the first time that felt like enough. Success didn't arrive the way movies made it seem. There were no red carpets waiting for him. No sudden wealth. Just more work. More pressure. More chances to doubt himself. But now, when people questioned him, their voices didn't sink as deep. Ethan moved into a smaller apartment closer to the city center. His mother visited often, sitting on his couch, watching him work with quiet pride. She never said, "I told you so." She didn't need to. One afternoon, Ethan was invited to speak at a local high school. He almost declined. The idea of standing in front of students stirred old memories. But he went. The classroom smelled the same. Markers. Paper. Possibility. A student raised his hand. "What if people laugh at you?" Ethan paused. He felt the weight of that question. Then he smiled softly. "They probably will," he said. "That doesn't mean you're wrong." The room was quiet. Afterward, as he walked out, he realized something important. The laughter had never been the enemy. Fear was. And he had learned how to walk through it. Slowly. Honestly. Still dreaming.